Yo, what is up, y'all? My name is Robert Donaldson, and welcome back to another edition of Rob's Best Bets. And in this video, this is actually going to be a two-parter. So we're going to have this video where we're covering college basketball for Tuesday, December 31st, the last day of the year, New Year's Eve. It's a fantastic slate of games, and we've been absolutely rolling in college basketball as well. But also, in the same sort of time frame, I'm also going to be uploading another college football playoff updated video where we kind of take a look at our current futures, where they're sitting. We're also going to take a look at just the straight bets we want to place in round 2. But in this video, just dialed in on college basketball. And before we hop into the picks, we of course have to shout out our main sponsor on this channel, Underdog Fantasy. And Underdog Fantasy is fantastic, especially this time of year and on this particular slate when you've got, a number of different leagues playing and a number of different players to take stabs at potentially. And we're going to be doing that over on Twitter/X at RobDFB. So make sure you're following me over there, and we're going to have some entries to place tomorrow as well because, again, this slate is pretty incredible. But with all that being said, y'all, I'm ready to hop into these picks. All right, first up here on this awesome New Year's Eve slate, we are heading out to Waco, Texas, and we've got a game here tipping off at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time between Baylor and Utah. And Utah is one of those teams that when everything is clicking, they look like the best team in all of college basketball because, man, do they launch a lot of jumpers. They're very offensive-minded, sort of like Iowa, which is kind of a funny coincidence that those two teams just played each other on a neutral court. But this is in Waco. Baylor is a team that can absolutely suffocate you when jumpers aren't falling, and it's really hard to get jumpers to fall in that building. So even though Baylor's laying 11 points here, I say we lay it for 3 units for our first bet here on New Year's Eve. All right, next up, we are heading out to a pretty obscure matchup out in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, between Rhode Island and Duquesne. And obviously last year in the NCAA tournament, Duquesne kind of won some people's hearts over with making a little run there. They upset BYU in a pretty fun opening round game. And now they're taking on 11-1 Rhode Island. And this is definitely a new Duquesne team, obviously breaking in a new head coach. Their roster looks completely different as well. And they're 5-8 to start the year. But I will say, Duquesne as of late, they've just been turning it up and playing a lot better basketball. I mean, last time out, they absolutely housed a good UC Irvine team, and the game before that, they beat a pretty decent Towson team as well. I think this team is starting to kind of turn the tide, and they're getting points in this matchup against Rhode Island, and it's not a lot. You would think this would be a higher number with 11-1 Rhode Island coming into your building, but only 3.5 points. I feel like that's pretty indicative. So let's go ahead and take Duquesne, getting the 3.5 points for 4 units for our second bet here on New Year's Eve. For pick number 3, we are heading over to the Fog Allen Fieldhouse in Lawrence, Kansas, where we have the Kansas Jayhawks taking on the West Virginia Mountaineers. And West Virginia is coming into this matchup a little bit banged up. No DeVries on the court at point guard for them just because he's dealing with some injuries. And this is the second straight year where West Virginia kind of felt like they were building something in the offseason only to have it sort of get derailed by unforeseen circumstances. I don't think it's going to be as significant this year just because they're better coached and they have a lot more talent this year. But when you're going in the Fog, it doesn't matter how much talent you have, period. And when you're shorthanded, good luck. And that's why Kansas is laying 12.5, and that's why we're going to go ahead and lay those points for 2 units for our third bet here on New Year's Eve. For pick number 4, we're heading out to Atlanta, Georgia, where we have Georgia Tech taking on Notre Dame. And Notre Dame is a team that I think is on the rise, but kind of like West Virginia, I think they're just a little bit banged up right now. And when you look at Georgia Tech, 0-2 to start conference play. They're at home. They have a beatable opponent. We're getting a pretty cheap price. I say we take a stab here with the Yellow Jackets for 2 units on the money line for our fourth bet here on New Year's Eve. 4. Pick number 5, we are heading out to Richmond, Virginia, where we have 11-2 George Washington coming into 5-8 Richmond. And if you know me and you're watching this video just right now in general, you kind of are sensing a theme of kind of what games I'm targeting. You know, these teams with really glossy looking records going on the road in conference play in particular. And 5-8 Richmond, yeah, they've kind of looked like a mess, but Mooney is one of those coaches that even when things aren't going well, it can turn on a dime just with this play style. And last time out, they got embarrassed against Florida Gulf Coast. I feel like the reason why this line is sitting at 3.5 is because that tide is going to turn sooner rather than later for Mooney and for the Richmond Spiders. So let's go ahead and take that 3.5 points here at home with Richmond for 4 units for our 5th bet here on New Year's Eve. 4. Pick number 6, we are heading out to Omaha, Nebraska, where we have Creighton taking on St. John's. And once again, we have an 11-2 record stepping into an opponent's home building or home venue, whatever you want to call it. And Creighton, sitting at 8-5, have not had the best start to their season. And unfortunately, again, injury bugs are a big reason as to why. Now, last time out for Creighton, they looked very impressive against a Villanova team that I thought was playing a lot better basketball coming into that game. And once again, you know, this is still a venue that's going to fill up. It's going to be exciting in there. People are going to want to make an impact on the floor. And St. John's maybe is riding a little bit too high right now. Obviously, I think this is a good team. I think this is an NCAA tournament team. But this is a game that I think Creighton adds to their resume. So let's go ahead and take Creighton on the money line for 3 units here on New Year's Eve. All right, for our second to last bet here on New Year's Eve, we are taking a look at another very obscure matchup between Fresno State and New Mexico, and this is in the Save Mart Center. And I'm sure a lot of you guys don't know what the Save Mart Center is, and to be honest, you shouldn't know what it is because I doubt there's even going to be 10 people in the building for this game. But at the same time, what it does for Fresno State is it eliminates the home venue factor of New Mexico, which is such a strong place to play and to have those fans behind your back. Well, there's not going to be a lot of fans in this building. It's going to feel a lot like open gym. And the reason why it's going to feel a lot like open gym is Fresno State is one of those teams that sells out defensively for steals and allows you to shoot jumpers. And if you make them, oh well, they're going to try to get a 3 on the back end anyway, or you're going to brick them, and all of a sudden Fresno State is playing AAU ball and just kind of scrapping it up and mucking it up and hitting 3s. And for that reason, they've been catching a lot of egregious lines this season and been covering a lot of them for us. And for that reason, you know, 15.5 at home technically with no real home venue factor, but 15.5 points is a lot. And I say we also take a stab here at the money line as well for a total of 4 units. I feel like when they're getting an 1100 plus 1100 price, that's just crazy, especially in conference play with a team that is going to be able to force some turnovers. So for our second to last bet on the day here, let's go ahead and take a stab here with Fresno. All right, for our final bet of New Year's Eve, we are heading out to Reno, Nevada, where we have the Nevada Wolfpack taking on the Utah State Aggies. And when you're looking at this matchup, Nevada has been falling short of expectations by an insane degree. I mean, they just lost to Wyoming at Wyoming, to be fair. And the previous game out, they lost to Colorado State at home. And I think that's a pretty bad loss because Nevada is a very talented team, and Colorado State this year is kind of in a transition period of they had a very talented roster last year, and now they're kind of in the middle of finding their identity again. Well, they were able to come into Reno, and they were able to beat the Nevada Wolfpack the last time Nevada touched their home floor. And now you got Utah State, the Road Warriors of Utah State. And the reason why I say Road Warriors of Utah State, they've played 2 back-to-back road games over the last week and a half against San Diego State and against St. Mary's. 2 very tough teams, and they've won both of them. They won San Diego State this past Saturday in some crazy dramatic fashion, and I think eventually that is going to run out, and I think it's going to run out in this game. And when you're looking at this line, I feel like it's indicative of it. So let's go ahead and lay the 2.5 points here for 5 units with Nevada. I feel very confident about this. This is going to be our biggest bet of Tuesday, and I say we go ahead and make some money with Steve Alford. All that being said, I really want to thank you guys for checking out today's video, and like I mentioned on the front of this video, make sure you're staying tuned for our college football playoff round 2 video that is set to come out around the same time that this uploads. So with all that being said, y'all, let's have a fantastic Christmas Eve. You can also check out our underdog entries over on my Twitter/X at RobDFB. And as I always say, y'all, I will see you in a future video. Take it easy.